took that first Reiki class, I would have felt really overwhelmed. And I got into hypnosis because a few years into my practice, I had this client who was, the perpetual kind of frowny person. And she had been coming for Reiki, and, we had a session, and she got up off the table and she looked radiant and glowing and smiling. And she instantly started talking herself into her old way, which was very painful to watch. I was like, please keep it for at least, until you leave. And that's when I started exploring hypnosis. And I don't know if you guys have met Melissa, but I did my training with her. And I wanted to find another way, Reiki is through the spirit, through the body. And I wanted to find a way to kind of go through the mind to kind of have some additional tools to be able to help clients like I just described. So I studied with Melissa, and then I did some additional hypnosis and NLP training, and studied with John Overdorf, who I highly recommend. He's a magical magician. And I guess I'm always taking classes. So I really come from a spiritual perspective, I think, because of the Reiki and just my own personal beliefs. Again, not imposing my beliefs on what the client's beliefs are, but that informs the way I do my work. So it often has that component, whether it's overtly something that we're talking about. My last client today just had this very powerful connection with Shiva. So we were integrating Shiva into our hypnosis trance work, which was pretty cool. So that's a little bit about me. I guess I've worked in hospice, and I worked in with NYU Medical, helping patients end of life or with physical disabilities. And that was for Reiki, but I used the hypnosis work a lot in my practice, just kind of subtly, the way I language things or would guide them into relaxation if they had trouble with that. So that's what my work is like now. The hospice was volunteer, and then the NYU was actually paid, which felt miraculous. It wasn't paid very much, but it felt good that they valued it to pay me anything. So it was for mostly low-income women with chronic physical illness, and they would pay $5, and then the hospital would pay me a little bit each time I would come for 4 hours and do half-hour sessions.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So should we dive into a little, did that answer what
you
Okay. So let's start by just doing a little hypnosis and distance healing. We'll do it you can make intention or request, and it'll be for, I would say, some aspect of your practice, but you can choose something else if you want, and it'll be done in silence at the end, and just for a few minutes. And you might feel some things in your body, or you might not, and it's just another way to experience energy, which you've been working with if you've been working in trance. So are you guys sitting comfortably? Are you in a place, or you could lie down if you can? I don't know what the space looks like, but get comfortable. You guys know how to do this part very well by now, probably.
Experts, yes.
Okay. And you can hear me if I talk a little bit softer?
Yep.
Yes?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. All right. So closing your eyes, if you haven't already, and just bring your awareness to the breath. Just noticing the inhale and noticing the exhale. That happens all by itself. Maybe noticing if the inhale is a little deeper than the exhale, or maybe the exhale is a little deeper than the inhale. Noticing the pause between each breath and maybe letting it take you someplace deeper still into your own inner knowing, your own magical mystery. Comfortably aware of all the little muscles in the face. Getting curious how you know the jaw is beginning to release. Maybe it begins with the inner ears softening, or maybe it begins with the space of the inside of the mouth. And I don't know what else you're noticing. Maybe you're feeling the chair, the floor, the cushion beneath you, the support of it, the safety, the protection of the room that you're in. Maybe you're noticing sounds outside the room, or the sound of my voice going with you on this journey. Whatever you're noticing, whatever you're experiencing, just allowing it to take you deeper still, moving inward, knowing that the tiniest change has a way of multiplying. And as you bring your awareness back to the breath, letting the breath connect you to who you are at the deepest level, your gifts, your abilities, your talents, your strength, your creativity, your curiosity, each breath becoming more and more of all of who you are. And everything you think you are, knowing that you're so much more than that. And letting that take you deeper still. Trusting, which is within, change is becoming even stronger. Trusting, deeper still, which is within, becoming even stronger. And I'd like you to imagine now, if you will, a beautiful sanctuary, a safe and sacred space, maybe a place that you've been or one that you're imagining now. You look to your left, you notice something unexpected yet wonderful. And as you explore, perhaps with the curiosity of a child, that wonder child that is within each one of us, trusting that deeper still, setting your intention about the practice building, the aspect of grounding and creating a thriving practice, a foundation, a structure to do this work that you've been doing and studying. And in a moment, not quite yet, I'm going to count from 1 to 10. And as you have this intention in mind to open up to resources, healing possibilities on this journey, you notice a pathway and letting that take you someplace deeper still. 1, moving forward. 2, into new possibilities. 3, new ways of thinking. 4, and feeling. 5, and being. 6, more of all of who you are. 7, as you open up to your deeper gifts. 8, knowing more. 9, harmony within. 10, and arriving in this new and unexpected place that will be so useful in helping you move forward with your practice, with your life, in new ways that you can look forward to looking back on this time of transformation. I'd like you to find a special symbol as you notice what you're noticing. Maybe you're inside, or noticing if you're outside. Is it day or is it night? Are you alone? Are there other people around? Exploring and finding a symbol that will help you with your practice, with all that you've learned in this training and continue to learn, helping you to integrate and move forward. And as you find that symbol, just asking in the privacy of your own mind what its special meaning is for you. And maybe you think about a way to honor this symbol in your waking everyday life, to anchor it deeper still. And in a moment, not quite yet, I'm going to count from 10 to 1, returning back along that pathway, back to the safe and sacred space where we started. So making any preparations to return, maybe deciding if it's appropriate to bring the symbol and its special meaning, or maybe just the special meaning back with you. 10, knowing more. 9, gaining clarity and insight. 8, new possibilities. 7, new ways of thinking, feeling, and being. 6, more of all of who you are. 5, moving forward. 4, letting go. 3, of anything you no longer need to. Harmony within. 1, arriving back at the safe and sacred space, looking around you, noticing anything that's new and different. Maybe finding a comfortable spot to sit or lie down, reflecting on the symbol, on its meaning, maybe setting the intention to continue processing. And during your dream time, when you sleep tonight, over the next several nights, longer if you wish. And as you're resting comfortably, I'll do distance healing. So just once again, setting an intention for one aspect of moving this work that you've been learning forward, whether it's building a practice or maybe something more specific. Either way is best. And just imagining your whole body filled with golden light while I continue for a few minutes in silence. And just beginning to integrate everything from this brief trance, a brief time that may feel like a long, long time. Again, maybe setting your intention to continue processing with ease when you sleep, as you bring your awareness back to the breath, letting the breath connect you once again to your gifts, your strengths, your talents, your abilities, everything that makes you uniquely you, bringing all that back into normal conscious waking awareness. 1, taking a deep breath. 2, imagine sending that golden light to every cell in the body, the spaces between the cells in the body. 3, breathing into your feet, coming back, feeling grounded, feeling centered, feeling refreshed. connected to more of all of who you are. Slowly opening your eyes when you're ready, maybe stretching as you continue to shift, maybe even smiling, coming back, feeling good.
That was very nice. Thank you.
Sure.
Didn't want to come back. That's always a good sign.
That's a good sign.
I don't know that I've ever, I don't think I've ever, I know we've worked together a little bit, but I don't know that I've ever done a trance with you like that. It's very beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we did other things.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a siren going off over here, like an ambulance or something, and it seemed to slow down and become something else. And I was like, for like a moment, I was like in like the Ulysses, like in the sirens of the sea were like singing. So it was that's also a good sign.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I could kind of hear it. It reminded me when I did hypnosis training, there was on 8th Avenue, so there were fire trucks all the time, and the more we tried not to hear it, the louder it got. So then we were like, and the sirens will relax you more. And I was like, wow, that actually worked. Who knew?
Yeah, no, it really slowed down, and I was like, wow, interesting sound. I don't think I've ever said that before.
Cool.
And thank you for the distance healing as well.
Sure.
Is that a special kind of Reiki or what is that?
It's this technique called Dao Hands. Reiki is more energy healing, and Dao Hands is more soul healing. So I love Reiki, but I feel like this is even more powerful. So.
Nice. So, so yeah, in the book, How to Build a Powerful Practice, I was just really kind of impressed by how you laid out this kind of, it felt like a plan to like take it slow, like build it up slowly and, you know, really get good at it, build up your personal resources, really take care of yourself, all the things that I did not do and still don't really do that well.
Yeah, that's an ongoing thing for me too.
But, you know, knowing you and, you know, from the outside, observing the way that you run your practice and, you know, how successful it is and how much integrity he has, I'm like, God, that's really great. I do feel like I'm getting more towards that now, but it's taken a really long time. So for people starting out, you know, what's your suggestion of like how to build a powerful practice? Like, where do you begin when you kind of guide people into starting their own practice?
Yeah, so you mean in terms of like the basic business logistics or just in general? I mean, I think that there's, just to start it off, and I tried to really highlight this throughout the book, that I don't think there's one way to do anything. And I tried to interview different practitioners to show how different people do it. For me, quitting my job and like hanging up my, like, I'm a hypnotist shingle would have been really, really stressful. I'd always had like a salary, full-time job. You know, I know people who've done that. So it's your comfort level. My suggestion is I don't want to be worrying about money and to have that get in the way of the work I'm doing with the client. Like, I don't want that to be front and center. So yes, it's a concern and, you know, something to pay attention to. But if I really recommend having a bridge job, whether you're already doing something now that you can, you know, make more part-time. I do think, to be realistic, you'll probably, to get your business up and running, it's going to take more time and energy, you know, just like when you start any new endeavor, probably. And then you hopefully work to getting that work-life balance back once it's up and going. But I would say the bridge job, so that you have another income stream, because the clients, when you're building your clients, it's going to take some time.
I think that's really
did you find that? Yeah.
I had it, but it was still like you said, when you're starting something new, it takes up so much more energy and time. So I did have a bridge job, but it wasn't enough, it was just a little bit. So it put enough pressure on me, which I do well with. So I kind of like needed that anyway.
Like a
but
little
it was
prod. Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought it was very helpful because I didn't really have to think about it. Like I wasn't worried about, like I just knew my rent was going to be paid. And then this way I just was learning and seeing a ton of clients, and working for another hypnotist. So,
oh yeah, that's right.
I didn't have to worry about running the practice either. I could just like see clients. So yeah, it worked out. It worked out pretty well. But yeah, I think for me, it was important to realize that I couldn't do much else if I was really serious about committing to having a full-time practice. I had to sacrifice other areas of my life, I really like went into it 150%. And, that was an important part of it, I think. But yeah, I think it's all about, similar to hypnosis, like learning how you work and how to make it work for you. So although I would have liked, to have like more of a savings and to, gone a little bit slower, who knows, right? If that really would have worked for me, because maybe that pressure allowed me to be where I am now, but it did kind of, wreak havoc on my nervous system for a good few years, so, so that, maybe looking in hindsight, is not necessary totally, but I love now that I only see clients in the office 2 days a week. I started out seeing like 5 days, even sometimes 6 days a week. A lot of clients, I would see like any average, like 30 or 40 clients a week for years, for like, I think
30 or 40.
Yeah, because I was seeing them with
wow. That's a lot. My nervous system's like tired just hearing that.
I know. So it was really an altered state. So that's why I have no other, I was just like, really in the zone, but
I mean, it's good for practice, right? Like you get so much, you have to like, you probably accelerated the learning, right?
And it kind of twisted my view also of the money situation, because I was getting paid $25 an hour. So that's how I would barely make ends meet by seeing like, 8 to 10 clients a day.
Yeah.
So I kind of didn't see that many clients too. But anyway, it was definitely a great learning. And if you think about a lot of, practitioners or different kinds of trades, like that's how it works in the beginning. You really have to put way more time in than
or like it makes me think my first Reiki teacher said, like, well, part of the requirements, she made us do 100 sessions, like document 100 sessions before we could be certified. And so you were sort of doing a similar thing, like you practice and practice and practice. And so that was sort of the way you did it was sort of a way to do it and get paid something to make it viable. So similar.
Yeah. Exactly. And so it's hard though, because, there's not really like an institute of hypnosis that you can go and get a job in. I was like dreaming for that, and then opportunity came. So it was so great, but it's such a sole practitioner,
Yeah.
field.
And I think that depends on your preference too, right? Because some people like, would love to work in a spa, and I don't. I like kind of being on my own, doing my own thing. And the hours that you were spending getting paid less and seeing more people, I was spending probably the same amount of time, but just dealing with like the administrative setup of things. So it kind of balanced, like, it's just two different ways of kind of
That's true.
Getting to the same place. Yeah. I still am surprised at how much, I don't know if you feel like this, but I feel like the administrative stuff, I'm still like, that should only take an hour. And like, I try to have 2 days I see clients 3 days a week. And I see a lot, like I pack people in. I mean, I just see them back to back. And then I have the 2 days for the administrative stuff, which, I don't know about you, but I get kind of messy with that, where I have a flexible schedule. I should be able to take advantage of that, but then I'm never really having a day off because I'm always doing something, responding to clients or doing a budget or.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like
Yeah,
that?
no, I never have a day off. Like there's always, I guess it's just like, that's a lot of people these days, and being a, entrepreneur, working for
Yeah.
yourself, it's definitely hard to shut off, and it's something to be really mindful of, and
Yeah.
self-care is really important. My self-care is like always, even in the beginning when I was seeing all those people, I would get two things I would do. I would get a blowout every week.
Oh, that's fun. I like that.
It was at Easy Cuts. It was a blowout at Easy Cuts on Lexington Avenue. And then there was this woman who was like actually a psychic from like somewhere out in Brooklyn, who was also a hairstylist. And we had the
I
best.
love it.
And and so it was like a relatively cheap blowout, but a great head massage. It was amazing. But I was like, okay, this is what I got to do every week. I don't care, And
Yeah.
then it moved up to a massage, and I was getting this amazing, like a massage every week, which I felt like I really, really needed. Like so
Yeah,
much.
I am a big proponent of that. Some kind of, I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like I have to deal with my stuff. I have to keep healing myself to be able to help other people. The more I do it, and people are coming to me with stuff that I either have had or have still, or some variation of, I can relate to it. So the more I kind of clear things, the more centered and grounded and helpful I can be. So I don't know if you feel like that, but.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely, a path of like, you can't, there's no return, basically like once you're just like out there in the wilds, like there's no coming back.
Yeah. And
But
it feels better, even when it feels bad, right? It feels
oh,
better than it would if we never, I don't know, I feel like that. Like I'll even kind of be like, oh, I think I'm depressed today. And it's like a lower level, or it's harder to access, like, because I'm just feeling better. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but.
well, yeah, because it's that kind of like, life force energy and purpose, and also like service, even though we are getting paid, it's something that's like, it's a very kind of buoyant energy that kind of
Yeah.
keeps you moving forward,
Yeah, I do think of it as service. And I do think too, like I just, in the book and the way we're talking, I've described like this slow process of building a practice. That said, I feel like things are speeding up and things are getting a lot more intensified, and people need healing. And the more, it's like all hands on deck. So you might be finding as you might be setting up your practice much more quickly than the way I described, which is wonderful. It does feel like things are accelerating.
It does feel like we're in a totally different time-space continuum than 2006. That's for sure. There was like,
Yeah.
you imagine? Oh my gosh, the landscape of our brain it was completely different. We're totally,
Yeah, and I do think of it as a service very much, and that helps. That's such a good barometer of, if you're deciding different marketing or social media. I think that people, or at least the people I really like working, the kind of clients I really like working with, can feel if you're in alignment and integrity and coming from that place of service versus other ways of doing it, I guess we could say.
Yeah. I really like that, being connected to, the center for, Melissa's center, and also having had that experience working for Selena, where it really wasn't, my clientele, so to speak, it was her clientele. So even though like there are some people that could be my clients potentially, but there were a lot of people that were really coming to see her. But so it gave me this chance of like seeing what that was like.
Yeah.
The difference between having practice and attract who you attract, and then who, when you're working for somebody else. But also, just going to the NGH conference or the Hypnothought Lives conference, all that stuff, you see that people have been doing this for years, like in Missouri, raising a family, like just being a hypnotist, kind of like being an insurance man or something like that, or mostly men, but like, so, they just run it like a old school, family practice business.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it's totally impervious to trend or like wellness or anything like that. They don't know anything about that. And they are still doing it and just like doing it. And the thing is that the average, if you're going to, show up for it and you're going to invest in it and you're really like putting all your balls in the one basket, you're probably going to make like a salary of like, I don't know, what do you think? Like $60,000, $80,000 a year and like have a couple of weeks off that's basically the average, I think. But then there's people who make a ton of money and usually they're involved in like marketing and all this other stuff.
Well, I think the hour per dollar, seeing a client and getting paid an hourly rate it can be done. I've been doing it for a while. It can be done. It's not, I remember thinking it would be lucrative. And I think that is why a lot of people teach or do some kind of passive income of recordings or products or something else. It gives some diversity. I used to teach Reiki classes and I have been getting my intuition is like, you're going to be teaching something else. So I stopped. And so I've been seeing more clients and it's different. It's nice to kind of, I think personally, it's nice to have different like teaching or other things besides just seeing clients.
So I went from the model of charging a lot less and seeing a lot more people, because I could in my life could afford that, like time wise and energy wise and stuff. And now I see a lot less people, but I charge more, but I still don't charge that like much compared to people who have been doing it as long as I have. But I find that it's hard to see a lot of people charging like at a really high rate, but I don't know if that's still like my mentality with it or what it is. I think I like to really work with a diverse group of people who don't necessarily have that money either. And I like to work with people longer term, so those are all issues there. But like, whenever I take these classes online over the years about like how to build a 6-figure practice, like in 20 days or whatever, all that stuff, it just doesn't really translate to real life. Like I find like you put down the numbers like, oh, we'll just charge, this and this amount of money and you see 6 clients and, in every week and then you have this amount of money. And it just doesn't translate to that because people will, reschedule or people will like not show up or, it just, I don't know. So how do you work that with your schedule? Like your budget wise?
How do I budget or how do I feel about charging?
Both. Like
both.
If you have to earn a certain amount of money, like that, the business perspective there.
Yeah. So I started with Reiki, and Reiki traditionally charges less than hypnosis. So I looked and saw what other people were charging in New York. And I have this intuitive feeling about numbers, like a number will come to me and I'll feel every few years, like, I think I should charge, like it's time to raise my rates. And I can kind of viscerally feel like knowing, yes, that's right. And also a little like, I have to kind of grow and stretch into that new rate. And clients can feel it too. Like when I tell, I just raised my rates this year. When I told, clients I'd been seeing, like that I was changing it until I got comfortable and I could really own it, they would kind of be like, oh, you're, and then once I was used to it and comfortable and I kind of stretched into it, which takes about a month or so for me, maybe 2 months. Then clients were like, oh yeah, it's fine. So I started charging more for hypnosis, more like I raised my Reiki rates to kind of, once I started doing hypnosis and was feeling, after I'd been practicing it for a while, I was still on the low end. And then I sort of inched it up to, I still charge less than, some people in our office and some people for hypnosis in general. But I kind of feel like, if I'm helping someone change an issue that they've been going to therapy for 20 years for, and I think a lot of hypnosis rates are trying to be comparable with therapists. I'm not totally sure on that. Like I should, this is like life-changing, 3 sessions and you're, so that's how I feel. And I also feel like if I've gotten a lot better about worrying less about cash flow, because it's definitely different, like you said, than a salary job where you're not sure. And with the first time I got sick, I write about this in the book. I was like, oh my God, if I had like a really horrible illness, like I'm not getting paid at all. So I've gotten better at worrying less, but yeah, there is that normal ebb and flow, and I think of it as a practice of like practicing like relax, like when I relax about money, when I stress less about it, it usually works out better. And what was the second? Oh, so the second part of your question about, I also feel similar to wanting to be able to help people who are lower income. I've been recently thinking, I kind of felt like the hospital work was paid so little that was kind of my volunteer work. But recently I've been thinking about offering, 1 session a week to a nonprofit that I feel that's helping underserved, women coming out of prison. And so I'm thinking of that as like my volunteer work. And then sometimes I'll have clients that I just offer a discount or I offer a lower rate. And I don't know if you feel like this. I think we might have talked about this, Shauna, but I talk about it in the book too, that no one really asks me anymore. I think because I've gotten the boundary set, and once like, the universe is like, oh, okay, like she's good with not working weekends now. We're not gonna have anyone bother her about that, or because I don't like working on weekends, or like, oh yeah, like we're not. She finally dealt with the boundary around people asking, for a discount. But a lot of people that would ask for a discount weren't the ones that I think really needed it. I think a lot of the ones that need it don't ask. And I've talked to other practitioners who have noticed that as well. I don't know. Have you noticed that, Shauna? Or maybe not?
I don't know. I think I can't say that. I think that's too broad of a statement. I think it depends on people's
at least the people I was seeing. It was like they would kind of it didn't feel good. I would do the discount and it didn't feel good. And yeah, so maybe
I know what you mean. Like sometimes I think it's always, I've always felt like across the board, people who have more money, like, pay less, or people who don't have much money are always the one tipping, like, or paying more, I mean, I do that. I've always done that and I've never had much money. So,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if it's maybe that's a general thing, but I do like to work with people, especially like, I find that a lot of people who don't, it can be pretty expensive for people to, I mean, even just a couple of years ago when I was looking for therapy and I was trying to find something under, $175 an hour, it was impossible. Everything was $200 an hour and I needed to go see someone every week. And that's a lot. It's a big expense, So I kind of like I do the packages. So, and I think that works really well for everybody. So I do my budget based on the packages and not so much based on the hour, like I know what I have to make every month and I have a set amount, and it just comes in all these different ways, whether it be through my, workshops or collaborations or my packages and hourly, like that's how it works. It's definitely like I'm working with like this kind of numinous force and it like always works out. But,
yeah.
But what would your suggestion be, like from a business perspective, like, sharing with the class, like how to do it right, because I think you do it such a great job with like, the boundaries are so great. I think you have really good rates and you always stick to those 3 days, on the same hours and all that stuff. I think it's very strong and it's hard to do that, I find, because a lot of times you want to just take whatever you can get and, so what are your
I think it takes practice. And I was talking to my husband the other night, like I still see clients back to back because my boundary isn't so good that like it would end up being like an extra half an hour for everybody probably if I didn't know like I gotta like So I kind of have created the boundaries to help enforce the ones that I'm not as good at, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
Um,
totally.
and in terms of the packages, I did offer them, and not that many people took advantage of them, and it was sort of hard to keep track. And sometimes they would buy a package and then they wouldn't need all the sessions, or they didn't really want all the sessions for whatever reason. Like it got kind of messy, and it wasn't like um I think it's sort of a personal preference that I like kind of having the freedom of like, if you need to go, you can go. And I have some long-term clients that I've been seeing for years, but a lot of them kind of, we'll work intensively together and then we won't, or it's a little more free flowing, and I kind of like not having the restrictions of it. But packages exist for a reason. It works really well for a lot of people. I was really surprised that it didn't really work that well for me, which kind of leads me back to the thing I started with of experiment and see, like, do I like this? Does this feel good? How does Shauna do it? What would it be like not to do it, And I think a lot of it at the beginning is, trying it out and seeing what you want to create that foundation and that structure. And um, Shauna, you're seeing like 10 years later, you're not seeing when I'm not a night person, I am an early morning person, and I was seeing clients because I had my bridge job. So I was seeing clients till like 10 at night. I was exhausted. It definitely doesn't work for me. Some people, I know an astrologer who like sees clients till 11 at night. Like she's a workaholic. She loves it. It's not my thing. So you're seeing kind of, as I've practiced and experimented with what I like and what works.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because it's same for me. Like even with the numbers, like it's taking me so long to grow into my rate and feel comfortable with it. But now it's also like one of those things where there's no going back, So like after you raise it to a certain level, you're just like, no, I'm not doing it for anything less than that. If I am, I'd rather do it for free or for, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it is so much. I mean, you can plan so much, but you really have to try it out and see what works for you,
Yeah, I still find the cash flow hard. And, I keep an Excel spreadsheet, which I have on my website for you guys if you want. The business starter kit has some templates you can use. And even keeping track of my income and expenses every year, it still really varies. Like there's not, and I think it's changed more, Shauna. I don't know if you agree, but like August used to be really dead because people would travel, and now sometimes August is really busy. So um, I think it's hard. And then don't get me started on quarterly taxes, but they want you to like predict in advance
Yeah.
how much income you're going to make and write them a big check. And they also don't space it out evenly. They have some of the quarterlies are not quarterly, so you're trying to hustle and get the money for that. But do you agree on any of this, or are you like,
Oh
no?
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the hardest part about it. I think just like, you know, making a lot of money and then putting it all towards that, I'm kind of like feast or famine
Yeah, I
because
try to do some automatic withdrawals at the end of the month to put into savings so I don't see it and I don't have to think about it. And I haven't come up with a foolproof thing for setting aside the money for taxes, but I try to do that so it's like incrementally there by the time I need to write the check.
Can you expand on taxes? Like, are you both under an LLC, or what do you guys do about that?
I just do sole practitioner, but I do have an LLC for other stuff. But I just do sole practitioner. It's pretty easy. But what do you do? Do you have an LLC, or do you do sole practitioner?
I was a sole proprietor for years, and then I became an LLC a couple years ago, and that was primarily because my husband wanted like a little more. I had my separate business account, but just in terms of feeling more secure and protected, that anything that happened with my business wouldn't affect all of our finances. So that's why I did the LLC.
Yeah. I like having different bank accounts. I have like 3 or 4.
You do?
Accounts.
For what? How do you separate your bank account?
Who knew? Shauna was like having multiple. I feel like you're like a Swiss like.
Yeah.
One day. I'm working towards that. I'm like,
Okay.
just there in the sky.
Under alias names.
Organize it. It just
Yeah.
helps me be like, oh, okay, that's that.
Yeah.
But it's I'm not one to really follow when it comes to this sort of thing, because I really live like on a magic carpet situation. That's why I brought Deborah in to talk about this, because I don't want to give you my advice. I mean, it works, but I don't know. Hard to explain how it works. And I think I do want to get better at it, and I want to hire an accountant. And, I just have somebody do my taxes, but I really want to hire somebody who can help me on a regular basis, like budget and grow and invest and do all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, let me know if you find someone good, because I sort of had like a bookkeeper for a while, and then I thought it would improve my relationship with my mom she's an accountant, to have her do it. That was I guess that was healing in a way. And now I just do it myself, but I do have an accountant I use for my taxes every year. So
cool. So let's ask some questions. Who has some questions?
So when you were moving from your corporate job to becoming a hypnotist, how did you make that transition in your social circle, or for people that knew you professionally one way and now you were a hypnotist? How did you maneuver that? People would trust you in this new role.
Good question.
I think that I just I fudged a little bit, and I said that I started my practice in 2006, which I did. I started studying Reiki in 2006, but I didn't really start my practice until 2008. So I fudged it that way, which maybe wasn't that great. But I'd also practiced like hundreds and hundreds of sessions by that point. I just hadn't charged. And sometimes people would ask, but not often. And I wasn't, I think I had friends, and I had some coworkers that would come get sessions when I was, doing my certification sessions. So they were getting the work that way. And I thought they would turn into clients. And most of them didn't. Maybe a few did. And it's actually better to have for me, it was actually much better to have strangers. Friends, you're kind of wearing like 2 hats, and that can be, and definitely with family, that is more than 2 hats. So I think, is that answering your question?
So how did you transition maybe from your corporate job? Was it a corporate job? You were in fundraising. Was it a nonprofit?
Oh yeah, so a nonprofit job. I lost my job, which was definitely the universe. And also, just to say this too, that when you, and you probably can see this in your own lives, like when you look back, you're like, oh, like da 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 da, like this is how this happened, and you kind of forget the angst of it. But I lost my job. There was a lot of angst in it, and I was looking like full on trying to find another full-time development job, fundraising job. And I was like almost getting, which was very unusual. I hadn't had trouble before. And then finally it was like, I finally opened up like, well, maybe I could do a consulting part-time fundraising job. And so I started looking for that. And I ended up finding one at a holistic learning center where I'd done my Reiki training. So it was really perfect. It was something I was really passionate about with a skill I'd already had. And so I was doing that part-time, and I was making a lot less than what I had been making, but it was enough to live on while I slowly built my practice. Does that answer it?
So basically, were you asking like, how do you transfer over like your community from your career to?
I think, well, for me, I have a couple of businesses. So I have a consulting marketing business, and then I have another group, and now the hypnosis. And I think when I'm talking on social media, people know me one way for marketing. They don't know me as a hypnotist. And so it feels like, and this is probably just in my head, but I feel like I'm trying to talk to everybody, and people are like, what the hell is she doing? Mm-hmm. So like, how do you move from being that to this in a way that can feel organic or just feels good to you? Because it doesn't feel really good to me right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I did my fundraising, but that wasn't on social media or a persona. It was like my work. And my friends and colleagues probably were thinking like, what is she doing? But I didn't really care that much. I was just like, I got to do this thing. And I don't know, it did seem to sort of organically happen. I mean, I created a website, and it was just about my practice. It didn't talk about any of my previous career stuff. Like, it was like, I just kind of kept them separate. So that's the way I did it.
Interesting. I mean, I did the same thing. I mean, I felt like I basically had like, alter ego or something like that for a while. But it's interesting because the social media, because we have this persona, that is like a whole other layer. Like,
that's a different.
But
you also might end up, like, I don't know, Shauna, if you remember Camille, like, she was a lawyer, and she ended up doing hypnosis, specializing in helping lawyers prepare and be really confident in, as a trial lawyers, and prepare for the bar. So she ended up kind of combining it in an interesting way. Which is sort of another way to do it. Like, maybe you end up helping the people that you uniquely know their issues.
I think it's still kind of hard though to do that, like, because they still like see Nicole as a certain, part of market. Supposed to be like, oh, I want to come in and do like this, hypnosis seminar for you,
Yeah, like, sorry, what doesn't feel good about it?
Well, because I still have major clients that I'm doing their branding and their marketing for, and that's how they know me. They know me as a marketing expert.
Right.
And so when I'm starting to now talk about hypnosis, they're like, oh, that's cute. Like, can you do that for free? Like, can we just, like, it feels like a party trick to them. And so I'm trying to switch from one side.
I would keep it separate then, and just like, okay, you guys want marketing, I want like serious people who want hypnosis. We'll do that separately.
It's still the best plan, I think, because then you keep them separate, and then eventually they come back together. But like, it takes time first. Like, I remember, I wouldn't really tell people. It depends how I felt, especially people from my old community, like running the magazine, working in fashion. And then all of a sudden, like, then they kind of would come to me. But it was like after a few years of doing it took a while.
So I almost feel like the way I did when I was in middle school or high school about like being gay or queer. I'm like, oh, I can't tell anyone this, like,
yeah.
My job is hard, that's hard news. And like, this is from the environment.
Oh my gosh.
But like, the more I have told people like one-on-one, they'll kind of come back. If you just, I think if you express it really genuinely, then like that seems to help.
Yeah.
And it does seem like slowly as they absorb it, they like come back to you.
And I think that's a personal journey too, as you feel more confident with it. I know that was the case for me, as I felt more confident with it. I got more experience with strangers. And then I was able to feel really good about it, and I didn't really have to prove it to anybody. And it took a while to get even like more get convincing with people, but I didn't care to, it just came naturally, you know. But yeah, so like build in that time because it's awkward. It's like an awkward phase.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask like how if you either one of you have experienced imposter syndrome, especially like starting out and feeling like I'm really passionate about this thing, but I'm also aware that I'm still gaining this skill set, and like what kind of inner self-talk helped you, or what experiences might have helped you to feel more confident?
Good question. Did you hear that?
Yeah. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I want you to go first. Answer.
I think it's just practicing. I think, and there's this amazing teacher I continue to study with, a mentor, and, sometimes I'm like, Gary, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, yeah, me neither. And I was like, wow. Because I just think of him as a genius. He's been doing this work I interview him in the book too. He's been doing this work for like 30 years. He's brilliant. And I was like, you too? And he's like, yeah, I feel like I'm making it up. It's fine. Who cares? Like, you're doing good work. Keep doing it. And he also said, which really felt liberating, he was like, yeah, if you feel like you've got it and you've figured it out and you know exactly what you're doing, like, there's a problem. Like, that's probably a problem. And I was like, yeah, like, I kind of want to keep the edge of like, I don't want to limit it by thinking I know exactly what I'm doing. And he also says something which I love, which still sticks in my head. Like, don't ever think you've got the client figured out. Like, you don't know how they're doing it. You might have some ideas and you might be kind of right or kind of wrong. And yeah, you want to get it, but you're never really going to get it. And I don't know, I found that really liberating. And also it kind of is that balance of like, I want to cultivate humility and honor them as an expert of themselves, and that they have the inner wisdom. I'm helping them guide them to it. But also, you want to be confident too. And that's not something we're really taught, how to be, have humility and confidence. Like, that's interesting. So I'm still working on that. I'll let you know when I get there.
That's a great answer, though. Thank you. I agree with you as far as not having the client figured out. That's such an important thing, to just not have that kind of arrogance or like tendency to control, But I still have imposter syndrome, and I think it's all about just, as far as the self-talk goes, knowing that you're gonna have to ride it out, and just like understanding that you set yourself up for success with just leaving room to like grow and feel the uncomfortable feelings and do it anyway. And for me, it's always been a driving force of like really passion and purpose, and also the people that I've been working with. Like, it kind of like it's like a slipstream in a river. Like, it kind of just like took me forward, And so even though if I was having anxiety or, public speaking, nervousness and issues, I just did it anyway, and like keep on doing it anyway. And it goes up and down.
Can I ask a follow-up question if that's okay? So I also feel like a piece of this would be learning how to know and trust your intuition. And I'm curious how you two have your journey with trusting your intuition, and I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I think for me, it's gotten much better since I have been on this path. I've always had like strong intuition, but I also have had a lot of fear. We've always been like kind of fighting with each other. And then since I kind of found this path, I was able to like really navigate the fear and move it into courage maybe. And the intuition now is very strong. And doing this work, it gets stronger and stronger, like basically psychic. So I think it's a huge part, like running your own practice and having your own business and this work. It's like, it's so intuitive. I don't know how that it can't be, how that it's not, like, because you're your boss. There's no one to blame. So you have to like always like kind of figure out like what's going on. Why did that happen? What can I do better? Like, what's going on here? If you're in a relationship, really close relationship with the work and the clients and the results, like you can't escape that. It's very clear, so it's like really like this dance that you're able to then, I think you're able to really kind of measure what's going on with you and your practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's very easy in a way to be intuitive in this practice. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be in and out of trance all the time. So you're going to be like, you're giving a session, you're getting a session. And every time you're going into trance, you're enhancing that intuition. And I am a big proponent of some kind of meditation, and that can take lots of there's so many different ways to do that, but that's going to be helping cultivate that. And also, sometimes I still get a little jarred by it, but I'll be having a session with someone and I don't get anything. And I still forget and I have to remember, but often when I'm like not getting anything, that's how they're feeling. And then it helps me really, oh, this is what it feels like. You have no idea. And it's sort of like, it often happens, maybe this is too esoteric an example, but it's happening because they don't need someone. Sometimes people do need that intuition from someone else, but sometimes when I'm not getting anything, it's because they have to find it themselves. And I have to like stand back and be like, oh yeah, this is what it feels like. Wow, this deep abyss is scary. And then I can be more compassionate, more empathetic about it. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but.
I mean, it's definitely, there are the forces of energy between one client to the next. It's a very real thing, each one is so different.
Yeah.
And and you have to calibrate it accordingly, But I know that my intuition has increased greatly.
You're not even going to be able to help it. It's just going to, but I think it is good to help it. I think some kind of meditation is going to really help. And also that imposter syndrome, just one other thing I thought of is, oh, it's so great that you're feeling this, because then you're going to be able, how many people I see who talk about that, like, oh, great, now I'm going to be able to relate to that issue that I struggle with too. Versus if you were like uber confident and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, like you'll be able to be more empathetic with your client, like, oh, okay, that's what you're dealing with. I know how to do it. And the ways that you'll learn to deal with it will be tools you'll be able to help them with.
Yeah. You combine your Reiki hypnosis sessions, right? Or do you do them separately sometimes?
I do them combined and I do them separately. It depends on what they ask for or what kind of session is, like a past life regression or quitting smoking. I can't combine it. I need to really focus. Sometimes it's so funny because sometimes people will be like, oh, Reiki, that's so weird, but hypnosis, yeah, that's what I'm here for. And other times people are like, I don't know what that mind control hypnosis is. Like, I'm here for the Reiki. And more people are like, I don't care, just like do whatever you can to help me. And so more and more I'm just intuitively using whatever comes to mind that would be helpful for that person for that session.
What are your rates for that? You don't mind us asking?
No, I just raised them to $195 an hour.
For everything, or do you do for the combo sessions, or is it different? Or
I just kept it for everything, just because I knew I was going to be, and I didn't want to have to like, oh, you're doing this kind or that. Like, I figure I'm giving you everything I have, all my tools, I'll give you everything. So I just charge the same.
And how long are your sessions?
The first hypnosis session is 90 minutes and then an hour after that. And then Reiki, you can pick an hour and a half. I also do a combo session for 2 hours for some people. I kind of like the 2 hours. You can get a lot done, but.
And is that like, how much is that? Do you do like a double 195?
Yeah.
Or like...
Yeah. So are you going to make me do? Is it $390? Yeah, I just raised it. So yeah.
You have a lot of those 2 hour sessions?
No. I have every now and then.
And also, I always like to brag that you were in Oprah magazine and you're on Dr. Oz. Because everybody thinks about that. But also it's so great because you're so not, like the wellness, trendy person. Like, like you're not really on social media that much. When you do it like very consistently and purposefully, and like it just feels like the real deal, as opposed to so much other stuff that's out there. So how did you get on Dr. Oz? Even though I don't even know.
Yeah. So one thing about the social media first is I've kind of ebbed and flowed. Like I tried to do it the way I thought I should be doing it and like kind of be salesy, and I wasn't good at it and it didn't feel good. And I think about, I don't know if you guys know Gabby Bernstein, but she talks about like and she's got a whole team of people now, but if it doesn't feel good, she'll take it down, which I liked, that like just kind of being in alignment with what feels authentic. And so I sort of took kind of felt like I was in hibernation mode, just really focusing on seeing clients and not doing social media or blogs or newsletters for a couple of years as my work was changing recently. And I've gotten back on social media and I really love it now because I really love sharing. Like I love sharing any resources that I come across, like sharing that feels helpful. And then I'll like weave in things about the book or, different blog posts I've written, and I'll do that a little bit, which is kind of the way they say to do it, but it feels good to be doing it in a way that like really feels good to me. And so I think experimenting with what feels good to you is the way to go with that. But the Dr. Oz, I had a coworker when I worked at a nonprofit, and she was a freelance writer, and she was writing a story for O Magazine, and it was about people making a big career change, I think it's a monthly section in the magazine. And so she interviewed me for that. And Dr. Oz, I think they just found me online and called me, and it happened pretty quickly. And I tried for a little while to get publicity and do things like that. And while I'm really grateful, and it was both of those things were really amazing, great experiences, it didn't really help with clients. I got some from Dr. Oz. They weren't my normal client. I mean, Dr. Oz was really lovely. These clients were wonderful, I'm sure. They just weren't my normal kind of people I like to work with. And the Oprah clients were really wonderful, and they were my kind of clients, but it wasn't like, this amazing influx of, it was like a nice handful.
So. Yeah, it's true. Stuff like you think that like, oh, it's like this article is coming out and then like nothing happens, especially these days.
Yeah.
I was
like, yeah. But
in this documentary where it was basically on the JetBlue.
Oh yeah.
And so like all the planes were playing this documentary with like me everywhere, and like I was actually on the plane once, and I was and they put all this money into it. It was like so crazy. Then there was this huge like opening of the documentary. It was a short. It was like one of those weird. Like, they felt really good about it because they were doing something that it was supposedly helpful or something. It's like advertising agency. And then I was on a panel with Ariana Huffington, and then all the other people that were in the documentary and all this stuff. But it was like this huge thing where I was like, oh my God, like what's gonna happen now, And like zero, like nothing at all. And it's that. I mean, I don't know that some podcasts I get some like clients and different stuff, but yeah, it just kind of, it looks good and it's fun, but yeah, just to have a level-headed mind about it, I think, because it comes and goes.
Like, don't waste a lot of time chasing after it.
Yeah.
And be happy if you get it.
It's good for the credibility, yeah. And I think if you are doing good work for, a good amount of time, it happens. It happens. How much has the book made a change in your practice?
You mean, what do you mean? Like people buying it or?
Yeah.
Or
is it
find you through the book?
What?
people find you through the book?
Oh, not that I know of really. I mean, you mean to become clients or students or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I wrote the book because I got guidance like you need to write this book, and so I was like, okay, I'll write this book. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, like I wrote that book. That was like a lot of work because I hadn't really seen anything like it. Like there weren't, it seems like
Yeah.
there could be a book about that. So.
For sure. How long did it take you to write the book, by the way?
It took me, I spent a lot of time not writing the book, thinking about writing the book, but I think it took maybe a year or two. I mean, I wasn't spending, 24/7 on it, but, over the process of doing it. Yeah, maybe a couple of years. So.
Cool. Well, any other questions?
So I also did Melissa's training, and she talks a lot about like mistakes aren't mistakes, it's feedback, and she kind of has a funny approach of like dealing with like she's like, oh, even doing this for so long, I still find myself in the session with a client, and I realize this technique I'm trying to give them. We're gonna go fishing. My biggest fear still is that I'm going to fumble the ball so badly during a session. I know I'm just curious if that ever happened to you. Did you ever feel like you fumbled the ball in a session? Like, I don't think you're gonna I don't think I'm gonna hurt a client or like negatively impact their life, but as a beginner practitioner, if I'm being honest about my biggest fear, it's that I'm gonna fumble the ball real big time. Your relationship with
What do you think about that? Your relationship with like
Messing up, you mean?
with that fear in the beginning, which is real in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I still every now and then, I mean, you're dealing with people, so every now and then you're going to be like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, or I didn't, I've never dealt with this, or oh my God, like, yeah, could I have handled that better? I mean, I think that's normal. I think it's not going to happen very often. And you're going to build trust the more you do it, that you will be able to handle it. And you'll also begin to see and trust in many cases, at least in my experience, that when it happens, there's a learning there for me, for the client. They usually have the kind of session they need to have. It can often be a metaphor for what's going on with them. I remember I had a client, there was literally like construction, like metal bins full of like walls, and they were like dismantling the office next door. It was so loud, and she kind of got it. She was like, oh yeah, that's kind of like what's going on in my life right now. And I was like, so she wasn't bothered by it, but like that's like more of an external thing. But I think, and I don't know, Shauna, if you've heard Dan say this, but I kind of borrowed it. I like it when he says like, yeah, we had the session we needed to have today. And even seeing like what doesn't, I had a client freak out, like really freak out about how loud the fan was in the other room. No, I mean, I've been in this office for 6 years. I have some very auditory people. He was like quite hostile about it, very angry. And it was just an example of like what's going on in the way he does his life. Like this is not the only time this happened. The more we work together, that's kind of a common reaction. So that's interesting. So it's not all about us. And yes, we can always reflect on like, oh, maybe I remember one time I said something about, and it's still stuck in my head, so clearly I haven't completely let it go, where I said something, she was there for fertility, and I said something about her anxiety and how, like, I thought of course she would want to, like, learn to be more relaxed, because that can only help in getting pregnant. And she just was like thinking I was blaming her, and she wasn't going to be able to get pregnant because she has this anxiety, which is not what I meant at all. But you're gonna, we're human beings. I wish I had said that differently or had known, but
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. Like and most of the time we really are reflectors, we're like mirrors for our clients, and like holding space for them and just being human and transparent with them, and like, just being kind and holding the boundary. But also if you did something that you can also apologize, if that's not what you do. I think it's important to learn from, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
But also know that you're still there doing the best you can, and that's worthwhile.
I want to ask a question just kind of feeding off of this last one. What if you have somebody that you're doing like a past regression, come back to a very traumatic experience? For example, I know someone who felt like maybe in her past that she had been sexually assaulted, and through hypnosis is where that was found. How would you deal with something like that? Or and have you dealt with something like that, and how do you work through that when you're new and you don't really know how to take care of them?
Do you have that? Do you ever have the regression to something like abuse happening? Have you ever had that happen in a session?
Not that they hadn't already known about. Yeah, no, I don't think so, actually. I've had traumatic reactions sometimes, but that's pretty rare. But I haven't regressed somebody to remembering something that like that, I don't think.
When you say traumatic reactions, like what are you, like what?
Someone remembered when her daughter was in the hospital, and she was really associating back to that time. We weren't dealing with that at all. It just came up with whatever else. I think we were dealing with non-smoking. And I think her daughter had, was like very gravely ill, like maybe ICU or something. And it was bringing up that time. And I guess she had been smoking when that happened. And so I just did whatever I could to help ground her. I have tools now that I would have used that I didn't have then, but I was like, I think I made her do, this is so weird. I made her do jumping jacks to like get her in her body. Like that was like, cause it was she was like, so, I don't know. And we did the tapping. That was like a really weird choice. Don't try that at home. But it was like, just get you in your body, like feel the earth, like jump. I don't know. Like that was like really weird. Don't tell anyone I told you.
How did she react to that?
It distracted her. She was like, she was like sobbing and not hyperventilating, but close. So it was like, just like get you back in your body, like get you doing anything else, like get some water, like she calmed down, but it was like
way jumping jacks, something that feels good too for the person to know that you're really there with them trying to work it out.
Yeah, she's probably like, what? I mean, but that's like, right? It's like Milton Erickson saying like, there's a tiger under your bed, or I don't know, like doing something really weird maybe was helpful. I don't know where that came from. And I don't advise that as a technique, the jumping jack. Let me know if it works.
I really think the best antidote to that is just to have regular practice. The more people you see, it's just very rare to happen, but it can happen. And I do feel, with language and shifting it, I always go where the person needs to be in most places. So that grief is coming up. Like, I'm there for it. but I haven't had. I don't do in the style of hypnosis that we've been learning. It's not direct regression to cause. That in and of itself, like it's kind of warding against going back to the cause. It's always doing it with the imaginal mind with tons of resources. So it's kind of like rewiring the brain against that.
And it would be so rare to happen anyway, don't you think?
Yeah, it would be. But it's a legitimate fear. Like I remember feeling that.
Yeah. No, I remember feeling, and Melissa telling me like, no one is going to come to you to ask for hypnosis for pain relief, that they're going to be getting a cesarean without anesthesia. Like you're not going to be the person they come to for that. Did she show you that video of that woman? Yeah. I was like, oh my God, I would never know how to do that. And she's like, yeah, I wouldn't either. Don't worry. You're not going to do that. So you're going to grow into the kind of clients, like, I don't know, Shauna, if you feel like this, but like the more work I do, it's like I get more challenging clients because I've grown to be able to handle, like I'm seeing a lot more people with trauma and I'm able to handle it more. Whereas a new practitioner, like, I don't know, I feel like you kind of get people that you can get people that you can handle. And then it's like stretching your muscles, you'll be able to handle more and more. Do you feel like that, Shauna?
I don't know. I mean, I think I've always been able to handle a lot, like just, I don't know, maybe it's past life stuff or my childhood or something like that. But yeah. I had like a lot of great, like serious stuff in the beginning, like a lot of it. And I think it was because of the Groupon thing. I was like working with Groupon, so it was just everybody and anybody. And it was like all across the board. And it was just like everything. And a lot of trauma, I mean, I think you just can't escape it. So it's gotten much easier, I think, for me. I think I see people who are doing better generally now.
Any literature or teachers that help you keep your practice trauma informed,
I mean, just doing like trauma, workshops, like thematic trauma healing workshops. And I did a really great one a couple months ago. That was like, somatic trauma therapy. That was great. But it was also a lot of stuff that we know. Like, it was like a lot of stuff that we already use in hypnosis, using language, like really reflecting back and like mirroring and matching and like creating a safe space for people and not, stepping on their trance and all that stuff, It's like a lot of stuff that regular, different holistic practitioners didn't really know. So, yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of our work really is really good for trauma. Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I just needed to learn to get more comfortable. And I did need to educate myself a little bit more.
Yeah.
About it, like the best way to handle it, or yeah, I think the tools are amazing at helping with it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, EMDR is inspired by basically the meta pattern, that's like informs everything that we do. And even just like Dan taught a workshop on trauma and like a 6-hour workshop, and it was just all about the metaphoric two-step, like for trauma.
Oh, really? Wow. I love the metaphor, the two-step metaphor. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
The metaphor or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, you probably have to get going now.
I do. Thank you. This has been great. It was really good to virtually meet all of you. And I'm really happy that there'll be more magical. It's like the Divine Mystery School, something cool. I'm really happy that you are helping to populate that out in the world. So
Yes,
Best
thank
of
you.
luck to all of you. And
Yeah, thank you. It was so great. You come across so well online. You just, your presence is like right here in the room. I feel like you're beaming in from like some friendly, compassionate planet or something.
well, thank you for getting me to do it, because you know you got me, convinced me to do it. And I think I am going to be doing some more online stuff, so you're helping me ease in. So I appreciate it.
All right, cool. All right, well, thank you so much. Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you. Have a good night, you guys. Take care.